Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, how on earth are you doing? I don't know if today's show is actually going to be a bit echoey. I'm in London, I've got my microphone in a shoe, I've fired up Skype, so we know that works, but I'm in a big meeting room, so I hope it sounds alright, but as you know, this podcast is filmed in a very raw format, in a very unedited way. So if it is like that, I will apologise, but it's what makes it easy to do this show and have amazing guests on. Well, today we've got another amazing guest. Let's intro that guest. So today's guest is someone who's worked in professional sport. He's done the big macho thing, and probably in a lot of people's eyes, does a very unmacho thing, or that is the stereotypes that we live in the world of today. But we will get into that. Welcome to the show from his brand that is the Strength Temple, Richie Norton. Hello.
Hello, mate.
Mate, just before we went on air, we had the background noises of sheep.
I thought we were going to edit that bit out. Yes, we did. There just happens to be a couple of lambs cruising past the fence line.
You say cruising as if they're on like a sit-on lawnmower, and they're just like meh, meh.
They actually do mow my lawn. When they escape the boundary, the farmer lets them out. They actually come and just mow up my lawn. It's actually quite a touch. Save a fortune on a gardener. But it wouldn't be Wales without sheep, right? But I just wasn't expecting to cruise past and just be so vocal. It's not the case normally. A few rabbits cruise about, but I haven't seen a sheep in a while.
Mate, that's funny. We've got plenty of rabbits where I live, and there's plenty of deer. Sometimes I'll be working, and out of my office, a deer will just bounce past, and like, how cool is that? You don't get that in a city, do you?
No, it's a rare joy. One of the perks is definitely having more animals about, because you just do not see that in the city. Very rarely. A few foxes.
Little buggers. Anyway, mate, Richie, for people that don't know who you are, please give people the Richie rundown.
The Richie rundown. So yeah, Richie Norton. Most people, I guess, recognise me under the brand, the project that is the Strength Temple, which has many arms. So I come from a rugby background and athletics, and fast forwarding, I now mainly coach strength and conditioning and yoga. I'm also a yoga teacher. I practice breath work and meditation, and now I've packaged it up. Coming from a PT background, I now try and build this role as a coach to try and bring all the values and all the experience and the skills that I've been able to learn and experience from my own personal experience, but also with other teachers and other coaches. And now I apply this online and through workshops and retreats and performance camps, and travel around the world and getting to do what I love. So it's now taken me to Wales, where this is base for now. So I'm practicing what I preach, being amongst nature, where I find I'm most powerful. And just fighting that fight, really, trying to spread the good word and getting people out and about and connected with nature and their real power. So here I am.
Love that. So there's a big challenge to me in all of that, in that you're a strength guy, you've got a background of rugby, but then you're also doing breathing and meditation and, as you describe it, flow, yoga. Like, how do you get buy-in from people to look at this other side of fitness? Because fitness is usually an output thing, expending energy, burning calories, trying to generate strength. And actually, there's a big part of your work or your message that seems about input, about recouping that energy, about grounding yourself. How do you navigate all the resistance of people that are like, there's no point doing that, I'm just going to go to boot camp or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, I think a lot of my exposure, I guess, has come from me actually speaking about my own personal experience and being able to share the journey that I have had and still have from a professional background or high performing sport like rugby, where I lifted weights and I built myself up, and a lot of heavy impacts, a lot of wear and tear, a lot of smashing myself in the gym, with very little really attention on recovery and repair and nurturing the time I think that's necessary to actually be able to withstand that sport for long periods of time. I paid the price by picking up a lot of injuries that could have been prevented, that I believe could have been prevented if I'd taken more time out to look at more recovery-based exercises and rehabilitation and more mindful practices, and what I would say now is more of a holistic approach to training. I was able to luckily rebuild through finding a yoga practice, capoeira, breathing exercises, a more informed and up-to-date nutritional approach. And I was able to rebuild my body to the point where all my injuries went away, and I feel like I'm now physically, mentally, emotionally in the best place I've ever been. But the transition up until where I am now involved a lot of ups and downs, a real dark time where I was super depressed because my career had ended and I didn't know really where to go with it. And I guess to get people to buy in, it's something that I experienced where I thought I didn't have a choice, or I didn't really know enough to make that decision or know any different until I actually tried something new and then felt the benefits pretty much instantaneously, just from taking that little step back from the beating and the wear and tear of the high impact and the heavy lifting and the constant smashing. That my injuries went away. I slept better. I grew bigger. I got leaner. I just felt happier and more in control of my physical body. And then it gave me a lot of clarity, a lot of focus on then really where I want to steer my passion and my career to actually start to teach that. But the key was, I think, just actually giving something a go and trying it for a while and experimenting with different teachers, different practices. And no matter what your fitness level is, no matter what you think your obstacles are, whatever your goal is, we need to look at balancing out the recovery and the repair to get the balance with wanting to build and lift and get faster, get stronger, whatever the goal is, because recovery and healing and a more mindful approach is what's going to give you the longevity and the more connected approach to your physical body.
So what made you discover or try yoga? Yoga was the first word that you mentioned. You've come out of your rugby career, you're in a bit of a dark place. Like, what actually happened to make you go, all right, because you've almost basically gone and tried the other end of the spectrum, like it's the extreme end. Mm-hmm. What actually happened and motivated you to try it?
Well, when I first tried it, I went to a Bikram yoga class, a super hot yoga where I just got bent and battered and I was sweating in a big pool of my own sweat, and I felt sick and I hated it because I was very competitive. I think I was one of like 3 guys in a class full of women, and just felt frustrated and I didn't really connect with the practice. And a few years later I gave it another go because someone kept telling me it was good for me, but I never found that connection with a practice that made sense. So I thought it just wasn't for me, like most guys do, especially coming from a rugby background. You want to like compete, you want to be able to do it. You don't have the same mobility or the same flexibility. So I kind of saw it as quite a challenge, not just, for my ego more than me physically. And eventually I met a girl who, as we do sometimes, she convinced me to try something, and I was like, okay, yeah, she does it. And she did it really, really well. And it just helped me understand the language and actually slowing things down. And this is why I think it's really important to find a teacher that you connect with, that uses a language that you can relate to. And for me, it was a guy who eventually just said, take your time, breathe a little bit more, hold that position. Wasn't too fancy with the words, didn't lose me with fancy like yoga words, and also gave me time to feel the position I was going into, and then got me to breathe. And I'd never been taught breath work or even the benefit of why you breathe when you move and how it all pulls it together. And within one class, one had an emotional breakdown because it felt so good and had so much release. Also, aches and pains that had been bothering me for months started to like alleviate within one session. And that was me getting my feeling of connecting to your own practice. And then it clicked.
Nice. Don't you think that is such a testament to the right teacher, though? Because quite often in the world of fitness, we we focus on the thing that we think we want to experience. So let's say there's someone listening to this and they want a personal trainer, and they're like, I want personal training. I want the practice of someone telling me what to do and guiding me throughout that process. But you don't really want that. You want someone to inspire you in a way that makes fitness and nutrition and lifestyle tangible to you. And it really does fly the flag to finding the right kind of mentor, the right kind of coach that you can aspire to, and be inspired by. If you think back to school, there was so many subjects that we hated at school, and half the problem was the dusty old teachers that taught them. They just read out of a textbook. It was just bullshit. And then you got a younger teacher come in and go, right, we're going to talk about history. Let's not talk about that. We're going to be talking about how people lost their heads in whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, and I just think that's so powerful, because especially in the fitness space, I often talk, and I don't know why this is, but I often talk about physios. I find that, in my opinion, through my exposure, there's quite a lot of underskilled physios. It kind of feels like they do their 3-year degree and they're like, I'm done, I know my rehab exercises, tell them to do rotator cuff. And so many people have gone to physio, and I'm like, trust me, you just haven't found the right one yet. Like, when you find that right yoga teacher, right physio, right osteopath, right X, you will really see a massive awakening in the potential of that practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I kind of wanted to make my career unfold and develop into being one of those people that was able to speak the language and replace what I taught or what I learned from my teacher, to make it as approachable and accessible as I possibly could, to at least get people to just go on that journey, to provide the tools I think a lot of people miss because they jump too far ahead or give themselves too higher expectations or compare their progress with someone else, whereas we're all on our individual journey. We're all trying to start, from different places, that often we trip ourselves up, or we feel defeated, or we don't get it in the first few goes, and we realize we think it's not for us. And that can relate to any discipline, where sometimes it just takes a bit of time for you to connect the dots, for you to get that feeling that works for you and that language that connects with you, to eventually you find that combination that works for you. And then that's when you start to get the real power of your own practice and your real connection to the physical training and the mental attitude, because you're so much more committed, because you've got that correlation with why you're doing it, the way it makes you feel. So you then go on your own journey, and it's down to you then how far and how much you want to put in. And that way you're not competing with anybody else, just yourself. But it's done from a point of actually care rather than punishment or forcing it because someone else is doing it. Because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it very well, but also probably not going to stick. Whereas I'm thinking about lifetime changes, thinking about improving your mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. And I think we've all got that ability to do that. We've just got to find our own way of going down that path. And I think that's the key, is just starting, but also keep exploring it. And I really wanted to embody that role, to at least give people as much information as I've experienced, because it took someone like me to actually go, I see he's not quite grasping it in that respect. He needs a slightly different perspective. So I wanted to be a people's person, even though I can coach and use fancy words, I kind of wanted to simplify things, just get people moving with it and then connecting just in its simplest form. I think that's often overlooked because people are trying to be the best, aren't they? They're trying to be the best coach, the best trainer, the best physio. And they're missing the key parts of actually just making sure people are making that connection and it's relatable, to give them that hope that they can eventually get better, but not missing out the foundations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, God, of course it does. Hopefully, it does to me. Hopefully, people that are listening are kind of like, yeah, it's okay. Smithers.
They come out, but I'm not always sure people can decode it.
You need some help from them sheep outside. So I'm fascinated. You talked quite positively from a career and performance point of view of your time in rugby, and it almost feels like a bit unfortunate that you had so many injuries and there were some issues there, and you kind of almost didn't get to fulfill that part of your life journey, I suppose, but that's led into some other cool stuff. I'm fascinated. We often look to athletes to to get ideas for our training. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? If you could go back, how would you change your practice as a rugby player to prolong your career and have more balance? What would you include knowing what you know now?
Okay, so recovery, rest, and more attention to my mental health. And to break that down, all I remember when I was playing rugby was how I need to get massive, I need to get super strong, I need to make sure I'm fast, and need to train as much as possible. So in all of that, nothing really was any focus. There was no focus on sleep. There was no focus on actually getting the right care physically, like through this, soft tissue manipulation, mobilization, all these words that we have now, soft tissue therapy, regular massage, or a diet that allowed me to recover and repair my body that was getting beat up all day, every day. And then on a mental health point of view, I would stress myself out and not want to communicate with anybody, because in case if I had an injury or I didn't feel great one day, I'd just bottle it up because I wouldn't want to share my feelings. I didn't feel comfortable. My ego wouldn't allow me to lower my guard. Whereas there were a few days when I wasn't feeling my best, but I'd push through it, and it would eventually just dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually just wear me down. So, being open and communicating what's going on and sharing what's going on, sharing your journey, sharing your struggles, getting the right advice, and looking at the full picture, the full spectrum of what we need to be an optimal human being, like a highly functioning human being if you're playing sport. But also, it's not just about work. Most of us are so overstressed, whether it be work, family, personal life, and then we go to the gym, we go and train for our sport. We have more sympathetic stress on the nervous system. We're just jacked up for long periods of time. And it's just doing so much damage that I think we'll wait until it's breaking us, and then we're just trying to do something about it. But then we've got a real challenge and a battle to get there. So I would look to find more space to be able to become more grounded and to take time out to do things like meditation or a breathwork practice to bring my levels to more baseline, so I could be more composed and be more steady, be more in control, and make better decisions.
So do you think the training that you used to do back in the day, you would have reduced the volume, or it would have been that you would have added more recovery? So let's say you did 4 sessions in the gym, for example, would you drop some, or is it just a case of the extra work was just not there? Because I'm just intrigued how the listener will be thinking and translating this into their own training. Is balance a case of adding it, taking away? And I know it's all context driven.
Yeah, well, I can relate to my training now. I mix up my training just to add variety. Because I do like to cross-train lots of different spaces. So some days I will train 6 days a week, and that will be gym work, but it will be looking at making sure I'm not overstretching certain areas, overloading certain areas. So I'll add a lot of movement practices that are mainly body weight mixed around maybe some weight sessions, depending on what I'm training for. But I'll listen to my body as well. If it's feeling stressed, if it's feeling pushed, if injuries are starting to appear, if I'm pushing too far and I'm in that red line, I know I need to then add in a rest day to recover, or a real light day where I'll swim, or I'll do a walk or a hike, or I'll ride my bike or something. So I'll be more in touch rather than going, this is the program that I have, I better stick to it. I'm a lot more intuitive now to know what my body's telling me to do. And I know if I've got a bit more in the tank to push it a little bit more, but is that the goal? But if it's not a structure that the listener is able to relate to generalize, it's definitely put more time to balance out the ratio. If you're smashing yourself one day, I would look at maybe not smashing yourself the next day. How are you feeling? Are you sleeping well? Have you got issues sleeping? Are things hurting? Are you pushing past that pain? Are you trying to shut out what your body's actually trying to tell you? Because we're so intuitive, but we often just try and dismiss it to try and keep pushing because we've got this goal. Whereas I think that ends up leading to injuries and problems later on in life, wear and tear and overuse. So if that kind of makes sense, I would be more intuitive. I definitely wouldn't drop down the training volume if I was capable, but it's understanding what your level is. I know I'm capable to withstand quite a lot, but I'll know if something needs a rest. So I'll mix up my training, be more intuitive. Don't just turn up to a gym and smash out a workout because you haven't been to the gym in ages.
Love that.
There you go. That is not a sound effect, folks. And I think especially when I go into London, I see people go to these classes and they're like, well, I've got to get to a yoga class this week because I've been told it's good for me, or because I need to get my Zen time. If you're disconnected while you're in there, you're just being told what to do and you're not connecting with your body, but you feel you've got to tick it off your list, maybe you're just better off going and sitting in a sauna and just actually having a bit of a chill. People go into the gym and just smash out a weight session when they should probably maybe just be going for a swim or going for a walk because they've just overstressed themselves. Are you doing too much? Be more intuitive, make adequate time that balances out the work, the heavy loading with recovery so you can repair and rebuild and actually grow. And I think that's a lot often overlooked just with people, just with these big results that they're working towards without adding in this adequate time that's just as valuable, personally.
If you don't mind, I want to pick up on the word spiritual that you used. I wouldn't say it's actually a word that I've talked about on the podcast before, and spirituality in the world that we live in now, I don't really know if many people understand what it's meant to mean. I think spirituality a long time ago recently was almost a religious term. And I don't necessarily think that to be the case. What does spirituality mean to you?
Good question. So I can relate to all of that. And again, if you'd mentioned spirituality in any sentence with me, I would have switched off 5 years ago. Well, maybe not 5 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. I've learned to find my peace with it. I had that same attitude. It was, spiritual meant religion. Spiritual meant woo-woo, fluffy, airy-fairy, definitely not anything rugby players would connect with. But through a yoga practice, and for someone who never ever thought I would find that understanding or connection to something else going on, or at least feeling like there's other things going on with energy and presence and actually connection with nature. There's now so much research out there that shows connection with nature and the way it makes us feel, and actually breath work and meditation practices that can cause physiologically a shift in our being, in our mindset, and our brain, and how it takes on information, how we respond to things, and how we restore memory. So I came from a scientific point of view, looking for research or science and proven facts of how brain waves can pick up other people's energy and physical connection when you hug someone, and how energy is transferred and people can feel that energy transfer, whether it's heat and whether it's vibration, things like that. And then hugging trees and sitting in the grass and all this kind of stuff, it would have been like, that's proper hippie stuff. But going on my own journey and working with practitioners and deepening my practice and being more open and aware to there being a deeper connection that I think a lot of us want to accept, it's given me that connection to what I feel spiritual is, or my version of it, because it has lots of masks. For me, it's more having a deeper connection to everything that's going on, rather than just expecting that I'm a human being going through life. I'm born, I live, I get a job, and I die. It's like, I've got a purpose. I feel like if you have a positive mental attitude and you stay focused and you journal and you write down your goals and you have a mission, you're a nice person, good things happen. And I feel that if you dedicate your life to following your passion, and I believe that if you've got a purpose and you're generally a good human being, again, I believe you can manifest, good things into your life if you just follow that path. And, coming from, even saying those words now, coming from where I have come from, that's a huge shift for me to even be open and honest about that. But I generally do believe that there is a lot more going on. And I think if we just open up ourselves to the idea that simply being in nature, if you shut off from everything and you slow things down, there's a vibration that will physically and mentally, connect with you. And that's my connection to spirituality.
Do you think the only way that that is really going to happen for an awful lot of people is getting more disconnected time to become more connected. And the reason why I ask this is I think you're almost a case in point. You were working as a personal trainer in London, really busy, successful, great clients. You were kind of getting involved in the London fitness scene, events, all this influencer type action. And then one day you were like, fuck this. Like, I want to go back to all the stuff that fires me up. I want to be in the countryside. I want to be surfing. I want to be listening to sheep outside of my window while I'm doing a podcast. Like, for me, when we talk of spirituality and having a greater connection with everything, there's an awful lot we're hyper connected to and an awful lot of stuff that we're not really connected to.
Yeah. And I think to make this relatable to like your listeners, mentioning spirituality and stuff, or going to a yoga class or doing breathwork and meditation, you have a lot of people go, oh God, but that's fine. It's just a case of what's your connection to being able to be more mindful of what you're doing with your day. So you are feeling like you are being productive, that you're working towards something that you are passionate about and having a more fulfilling life and more fulfilling existence. When we get in the rat race, let's call it, or the routine and the habits that we're in day to day, going through our daily lives, especially when I was living in London, I felt like I was just filling up my days with stuff. There was always something to do, somewhere to be, something I could be doing. And a routine of like, I go to a gym at this point, I'll do a class at this point, I'll go and have dinner, I'll meet someone for a coffee. But it kind of felt like to the point where I'm like, what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? Is it making me happy? Life's pretty short, it can be taken away from us very quickly. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. I just felt like I was going through the motions of just surviving, even though I was making money and I felt like I was successful in my space. Why was I doing it? Was I really adding value? Could I do more with my life? What would I do differently if I had the opportunity to do something that was more driven by passion and happiness and fulfillment, so I could feel like I was really doing something that I could wake up every day and hit 100% and actually know that was what I was here to do. So I had this little awakening because I just felt burnt out and I felt like pretty run down and I just felt like I was going through the motions every single day. So I challenged myself by saying, well, I'm just going to move out of London for 6 months and see what happens. What's the risk in trying something that potentially might be a game changer? Worst things, come to the worst, I can just move back to London. Life will just carry on. So going back to the point, it was more, for me, I think giving people, one, showing them that this is what I did and showing them how I did it, but also knowing that even if you can't just move to Wales and hang out with sheep, what's the nearest thing for you to maybe try and experiment with that might allow you to feel more fulfilled, and just give it a go. And the first thing is just make one move. What is it you want to do more of? What do you love doing, and can you do a little bit more of it, and what does it look like? Does that make you feel better? Can you make it work for you for that to be something that could be more of a lifestyle change, a little change in your daily habits that makes you feel like you're doing something for you, that makes you feel happy? Because in the day, we're looking to be happy, enjoy life, go through life feeling like we've achieved something. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. Why is going through the motions? Yesterday is the past, forget about it, and you can create whatever you want tomorrow because it's down to you. If you don't like where you are now, why are you putting up with it? We've all got choices now. Even though some of us can't afford to, or our situation because we've got family, we can't just up and leave. Guarantee you're spending more time on social media than you could be putting into something more productive. That could be building an online business. That could be, getting out in nature a little more, so you feel happier, more connection with your kids. I could go on and on and on, but I feel there's a lot of complaining, a lot of blaming when we're just kind of making excuses that we've all got more time. We've got loads of time. It's just what you put your time into and what your priorities are and your values. If you set your values at a point where actually I value my health, I value my family, why am I here? What am I capable of? Believe in myself, even though it's just one little shift, go at it. At least you tried it. And that will, show in your passion and commitment, and then you'll just start to attract more people into your space that have a similar mindset. And if they don't, you just move on. So that's my personal attitude. I think people can come and go into your life, and because we just evolve, we grow. And my movement practice, my meditation practice, my time in nature. It's just, they're all tools for me to stay connected. And I think we all just need to find that in each other, and then build a community based on that. Because if I think personally, if we've got a chance as a human race, especially all the mental health issues that are just getting way out of control, we've got to get a grip as a community and then look out for each other and start to do things more orientated around our health and our well-being, and not just looking at it as a fad that the wellness industry is creating. Start to diffuse the simple tools that we all have to make it a little bit easier. And that just makes more conversations.
I want to pick up on a phrase you used about halfway through that, which was really fucking simple, and I don't know how many people have just, or are using this kind of approach to life and things that we do, but you just said, why am I doing this? And how often do we get caught in the trap of just saying yes to people, yes to things, like you said, yes to coffee, yes to drinks, yes to this. And how often do we get to the end of the week and we're like, fucking hell, I haven't done anything for myself. But how often in the moment did you go, hang on a second, why am I going to say yes? Will it serve me? Will I feel that there's an outcome? And don't get me wrong, sometimes there's not always a net positive outcome, like I will earn money, or I will get a sense of fulfillment. It's like, I'm going to do this because it will be good for my friend. Like it will help my friend out. So don't get me wrong, I'm not devaluing all of that stuff. But like you say, how much are we questioning the time we spend on things? Like I really rarely go on social media because it really rarely gives me anything back. And that is weird for someone that's got an online business, and I see that social media is a way for me to put out information. But it's very rare that I'm consuming stuff because I'm like... But then there will be times where I am on social media a bit because I do want to experience some stuff. Like I follow you and I've followed some of the movement stuff you've done. I'm like, I've got some stuff out of it. So I'm not saying social media is good or bad, but you have to question the purpose and the things that you're doing on it. Same with your work, same with your relationship, same with all the stuff that you do.
And to simplify that is does it make you happy? You know, if you've chosen this, you've got a reason. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, well, what are the reasons you're doing it? Are they making you happy? Is it for the right reasons? Is it for money? Is it for fame? Is it for status? Is it because you care about other people's opinions? Is it because you value your image amongst the people that you're around? Or is it actually because it's making you happy and you love it? It's a really good, simple way to start things off. And a lot of people, I think, get stuck in their ways. I think that what they've started their career off in is the only way that they're going to survive is if they keep doing what they're doing, whereas they just live in misery, just thinking that's their only option. And then when it comes down to health and wellness and mental health, a lot of time you can feel completely stuck and lost and confused and overwhelmed that you don't even know where to go with it. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of a step back to change your perspective and to do something a little bit different for you to go, actually, no, I have got some options, or I am going to try that. That's not actually that hard. I'm just going to give it a go. And I think if we start to keep mixing things up and change things up a little bit, we'll bring in variety that will open up, opportunities. But at least we're trying. And, that effort gives us purpose and gives us focus. And I think that sometimes gets lost. So, yeah.
With all of that, I want people that are listening to this as well to know that it's a constant balance that will always shift and change. Like you've talked that your yoga practice is evolving, your breathing's evolving. Like it never stays the same. Like it just changes for what you need as a person. And your work life, your balance around that, your fitness will do the same. And like I'm someone that I love nature, I love connection, but during the week, like Monday to Friday, I actually go at it fairly hard. Like I'm quite a busy guy. I have a business. I've got fair amount going on, but I like that. But at the weekend, I turn off my phone. I'm done. Weekends about walking, getting outdoors, having fun, all the rest of it. So I do kind of live for the weekend, but it's also because I want to straddle two goals. I want to have fun and I want to disconnect, but I also want to be connected and grow something really meaningful. So I just kind of want people to know that there is no absolutes here. Like we've said, you've just got to ask what is it that you want and how you're going to achieve those multiple things that you want, because it's never one thing that we want.
Yeah, I agree. And it is about balance, and this is why it's each to their own. Everyone's going to a slightly different mission. And I think you just touched on it there, that, you know, some people will work Monday to Friday, or they'll work for the weekends, whatever their situation is, but they'll sometimes get lost in it, where they'll just be working and working and working to live for the weekend, because they just want to have a massive blowout, because all they've been doing is stressing themselves out all week. And I think there's just a little bit of more conscious awareness of how you can maybe manage being busy. I'm busy, you know, I get it, but I know if I don't get time allocated to rest and recovery and having some nice meals where I feel like I'm nourishing my body, is eventually you just end up burning out and getting sick and getting run down, and your training starts to fall off. And sometimes it just means that you just have to just change your habits a little bit, and your rituals, let's call it, to simplify the little well-being practices that make you feel like you're actually taking care of your well-being, to be able to push so hard, whether that's in work or in the gym, whatever it is. And I think that more open and conscious awareness of a more mindful approach means you'll get better output. And I think that could just be assessed for a lot of people. I think, if anything, that would just be the question I put out to people. Just ask yourself, are you on the right path? Are you doing enough? Could you do a little bit more? What are the little shifts you could make? Just keep checking yourself, because it changes all the time. But don't get caught up in all the lights of everybody else around you, what they're doing, and comparing yourself and wondering what everyone else is doing. Do your thing, but make sure you're staying on track with, you know, what really matters, and that's your health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and keep it in check and do what you've got to do with that. And that can sometimes just be with getting out for a walk when you can, you know, drinking a bit more water this week, you know, going out and trying a yoga class. You've never done one before, give it a go. What's to lose? So there's little things. I think there's a lot of perspective change when you can actually take that little step back, and that's what I just try and present when I teach anybody, is just make it a little bit easier for people to get some realistic, achievable and relatable approaches in place that will just start to go on that new path and start that journey and see where it takes them.
Well, I think that is the perfect place to end the show. Hopefully that's sort of really summed up kind of what your message is today, and I think that was brilliant. Hopefully people listening to this are already thinking, yeah, what is my next shift? What does need to change? And it doesn't have to be big. Like, it can just be tiny, and it can just then lead on to something else. And you know, quite often, you know, we're all leading busy lives. It's all a little bit mad sometimes, and you know, sometimes just, you know, 20 minutes in a park in a green space at lunchtime could be enough to recharge your afternoon and go back into that fast-paced life that you might be in. Who knows? But until you question it, you don't know. Richie, thank you very much for today. Brilliant interview. Thank you for your time. For people that want to find out where you're at, what you're doing, where are the links and the places to follow what you do?
The easiest place to start off is the website. It's thestrengthtemple.co.uk. Most of the action, the places you can find the workshops, the teaching, the classes, a little bit more about me, and the journeys is all on the website. Otherwise, social media, I'm active on Instagram, and that's the Strength Temple. Twitter as well, Strength Temple. Facebook, I have some groups on Facebook as well, which is like a little community group where they interact and share their journeys, and I kind of contribute a little bit of community source. It's all free. All my stuff is free in that respect online, just to try and get people started. And yeah, that's it really. Sweet. So yeah, hit me up if you want more information.
Yeah,
love sharing the stories.
Well, I'm a fan, so keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully we get to connect again. I actually first met Richie in one of his classes. I was speaking at Wellfest, and I was looking through the menu of choices at the festival, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, a flow class. And I like finding movement practices for me that can work in around 15 minutes. So quite often I'll take a break, I'll eat at home, and then I'll do like a little bit of movement. And quite often, sometimes I'll put a bit of Netflix on and do some stretching in front of it. Sometimes I listen to a podcast, sometimes I'll be quiet. So I kind of went there thinking, oh, I learnt some movement stuff, and I did. It was a great class. So yeah, if you're into that kind of stuff, you know, definitely check out The Strength Temple.
Thanks, man.
Right, dude, thanks very much for your time again. We are out. We are done. For everyone that's listened to this show and they've enjoyed it, please do the massive honour of giving it a like and a share, and maybe tagging a friend in that you think would enjoy the show as well. If you've never ever left a review on iTunes, that would be amazing. That really helps. If you're listening to this because you came over from Richie's side, welcome to the show. There's only about 400 other podcasts to listen to. I'm joking. Don't get overwhelmed. I've just been doing this a long time. Anyway, the only thing that's left for you to go and do after today, after listening to this, is to go and have an awesome day. Goodbye.